Have you ever read about Death Valley? About those tourists that rangers find every summer? Most often, they are just dried up husks, mummies in designer t-shirts sitting in scorching rental jeeps. You know what's the funniest and at the same time the creepiest thing about these reports? Almost all of them are found just a couple of miles from the main highway or a 5-minute walk from a water source. They didn't die because the car broke down. They died because they blindly trusted the blue line on their smartphone screen. "Turn right," the mechanical voice said, and they turned, straight into hell. I always considered them idiots. Darwinian selection in action, I thought, sipping cold brew in an air-conditioned office. How can someone be stupid enough to trust their life to a piece of silicon and plastic? I thought so, until last night. I was coming back from Vegas. It was around 2 in the morning, somewhere on the border of Nevada and Arizona. My eyes burned as if someone had poured sand under my eyelids. The 4th can of energy drink wasn't working anymore, only causing an unpleasant tremor in my hands. I just wanted to go home, to my bed. And then I saw a red intestine on the navigator map. I-15 was at a complete standstill, an accident involving a fuel tanker, all lanes blocked. Delay? 4 hours. I groaned, slamming my palm on the steering wheel. 4 hours standing in the desert? No thank you. And then Waze chimed, rerouting. Alternative route found. Time saved, 2 hours, 15 minutes. I looked at the screen. The route looked strange. A thin gray line went sharply to the right into the blackness of the desert. It twisted, but eventually led back to the highway far beyond the crash site. No road number, no names, just a gray worm on a black background. "All right," I muttered aloud just to hear my own voice. "Screw it, let's go." I spun the wheel to the right. The first thing I noticed was the asphalt. The old highway was rough, noisy, cracked like an old man's skin. But as soon as I turned onto this nameless road, the tire noise vanished. The surface was perfectly smooth, black like an oil slick. The car wasn't driving, it was floating. No markings, no reflector posts, only this unnaturally black gloss absorbing the light of my headlights. There was something hypnotic about it. I even relaxed. Great shortcut, I thought. Probably some military road or private sector. For about 20 minutes, I enjoyed the silence and speed. A night drive playlist was playing on Spotify. And then, the music cut off. It didn't just pause, it vanished with a sharp digital screech. I glanced at the phone screen. No service. Well, it happens. It's the desert. I shifted my gaze to the car's built-in navigator. The map was still glowing, showing a straight line. But something was wrong. Arrival time, 4:48. I drove for another 5 minutes. Arrival time, 4:48. I sped up to 80 miles per hour. Arrival time, 4:48. Glitching, I chuckled nervously. I reached for cigarettes, but the pack was empty. I started peering into the roadside. Headlights picked out giant saguaro cacti and dry bushes from the darkness. At first, I thought I was going crazy from fatigue. I saw a bizarre cactus that looked like a man throwing his hands up in prayer. 100 meters later, exactly the same one. Another 100, there it was again. I slowed down. I started counting. Skull-shaped rock, bush, praying cactus. 100 meters of darkness. Skull-shaped rock, bush, praying cactus. This didn't look like nature. It looked as if a lazy video game developer just copied and pasted the same piece of landscape hundreds of times in a row. Copy, paste, copy, paste. A road sign flashed in the headlights. I caught a glimpse of it. It was yellow, a standard diamond shape, but it was turned not towards me, but away from me, facing the desert. Why put a sign for those coming out of the void? A chill ran down my spine. The feeling of a glitch in the matrix became physically nauseating. Suddenly, the rearview mirror blinded me. I flinched in surprise. Behind me, about 50 meters away, two bright headlights were burning. Thank God, I exhaled. I'm not alone. The presence of another person instantly washed away the fear of the repeating cacti. I even smiled. The car behind approached closely, too closely. It literally sat on my tail and started flashing its high beams furiously. "Go to hell," I shouted, turning on the right blinker and hugging the shoulder, which wasn't really there, just the end of the asphalt. "Pass me, you psycho!" The car pulled up beside me. I turned my head to look at the driver and perhaps show him the middle finger. Time slowed down. It was a gray sedan, Honda Accord 2018. I have a gray sedan, Honda Accord 2018. On the rear bumper of that car was a sticker, "I love NY," but with a torn corner. My bumper had exactly the same sticker with exactly the same torn corner. The windows of that car were tinted to zero, black voids. But the scariest part wasn't that. It sped past me in absolute silence. No engine roar, no tire noise, just a gust of icy wind, and it dissolved into the darkness ahead like a ghost. I started shaking. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. You imagined it. You just imagined it, Mark. You are sleeping. At that moment, the navigator came to life. The screen flashed red, flooding the cabin with ominous light. Instead of a map, static appeared, like on an old TV. The voice was female, the standard Google Assistant voice, but distorted as if speaking from underwater. "You missed a turn in 2018. "What?" I tapped the screen with my finger. "You didn't go after Sarah. You chose the job. Route recalculated." The hair on my arms stood up. "Sarah, we broke up 5 years ago. I really did choose to move for my career. How the hell? You didn't call your mother before she died. This was a navigation error." The voice was getting louder. I spun the volume knob to the left, trying to kill the sound. The bar on the screen crawled up instead. "Shut up!" I screamed. "There is a letter in the glove box you are afraid to open. You have arrived in the zone of regret." I punched the dashboard. Plastic crunched. The voice went silent, but the screen continued to pulse red. Ahead, a light appeared. Real, warm yellow light. Neon. A sign. Diner. And next to it, an old Texaco gas station. It looked like an oasis, like salvation. Screw the voice. Screw the doppelganger car. There are people there. I turned into the parking lot, kicking up a cloud of dust. The building looked like it was from the 50s. Chrome, glass, checkered floor. Lights were on inside. Through the large windows, I saw silhouettes of people at the tables. I jumped out of the car without killing the engine. "Hey!" I shouted, running to the entrance. "I need help!" I grabbed the door handle. Locked. I pressed my face against the glass. Inside sat about 10 people. A waitress with a coffee pot, a trucker at the counter, a couple in the corner. But no one moved. Their skin was too smooth. Their eyes, glass. They were mannequins. Stunningly, terrifyingly realistic, but mannequins. Plastic food lay on the tables. Brown varnish mimicking coffee froze in the cups. My gaze fell on a guy sitting by the window. He was wearing a red plaid flannel shirt. I looked down at myself. I was wearing a red plaid flannel shirt. The mannequin was my copy, only the face was empty, featureless, just smooth plastic. And then, without a single sound, without the creak of mechanisms. All the heads in the diner, the waitress, the trucker, my double, simultaneously turned towards me. 20 glass eyes stared straight into my soul. I screamed. Primal terror overwhelmed me. I dashed back to the car. I jumped behind the wheel, slammed the gas pedal to the floor. Tires squealed. I made a U-turn across the solid line, which wasn't there, and raced back to where I came from, to the highway, to the traffic jam. I dreamed of that traffic jam. I wanted to stand in it forever, just to see living people. The speedometer showed 100 miles per hour, 110. The road was straight as an arrow. Come on, I whispered, swallowing tears. 10 minutes passed. I should have already driven out to the old asphalt. But ahead lay only darkness. And then red lights appeared. Tail lights of a car ahead. Someone else flashed through my mind. I need to warn him. I started flashing my high beams. The car ahead didn't react. It was driving slowly, as if the driver was looking for something. I got closer. It was a gray sedan. Honda Accord. Sticker, I love NY with a torn corner. Cold sweat broke on me. It was my car, the one I saw earlier, the one I was sitting in right now. The road had closed. It's a Mobius strip. I am chasing myself. I remembered that first encounter. I remembered how that driver looked at me. I pulled up beside the car. My hands were shaking so hard the car swerved from side to side. I turned my head to the left. The windows of that car weren't tinted. I was sitting behind the wheel. But it wasn't me. The face of that Mark was twisted in a grimace of unnatural, insane joy. The mouth was stretched so wide that the skin on the cheeks seemed about to burst. Eyes were bulging, looking straight at me with an expression of absolute triumph. That me let go of the steering wheel and slowly waved at me. And then his car dissolved into thin air. I screamed and sharply yanked the wheel to the right, off the road, into the desert, anywhere, just to break this circle. The car flew off the black gloss. I expected an impact, shaking, but after 50 meters the wheels got stuck. The car dipped its nose and stopped. The engine stalled. Dead silence fell. I sat there, breathing heavily, afraid to move. The headlights beamed forward, illuminating what I had crashed into. At first, I thought it was sand and rocks, strange, shiny gravel. I looked closer. It wasn't sand. The entire desert around, as far as the headlights reached, was littered with them. Thousands, millions of GPS navigators, old Garmins, shattered iPhones, cracked tablets. They lay in layers, forming dunes. Some of them still glowed dimly, blinking with low batteries. And amidst this electronic graveyard, bones shone white, human ribs, skulls half buried under piles of microchips. Suddenly, my phone beeped. I looked at the screen. LTE, 5 bars, full signal. But there was no joy. I knew what it meant. The navigator on the dashboard lit up again with a bright white light. The voice became clear, loud, devoid of any static. It sounded triumphant. You have arrived at your destination. The light inside the car went out. The headlights died. I was left in total darkness. And then I heard it. A knock on the driver's side window. Knock, knock, knock. Rhythmic, mechanical, as if it wasn't a fist knocking but hard plastic. I am dictating this message in hopes that it sends. The signal is still here, but I won't open the door. I see a pale face pressed against the glass. It is smiling with my smile. The door handle started to turn slowly. Listen to me. If your navigator suggests a shortcut along a nameless gray road to save a couple of hours, just turn around. Please, turn around. They are coming in.